Thank you, Michael. So if you've been reading mainstream business books these days, you are aware of this theme that machines are going to take over the world and leave us humans without jobs. Others such as Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates, they go on to say that AI poses an existential threat. Well, this is not going to be a talk about the contention between humans and machines, quite the opposite. This is about combining the unique talents of humans and machines to create new capabilities. So let's start with a very familiar machine learning test, that of the recommender system. So this is a screenshot of Amazon. On the top, we're probably using a collaborative filtering algorithm here, and on the bottom, it's probably an affinities algorithm, very traditional machine learning techniques. And we as consumers have come to rely on recommendation systems for navigation and discovery when we shop online. But when we go to stores, we get a very different experience. We get a human, a knowledgeable sales associate that helps us, and it's a very different experience for us. Now, there's many that will argue that this thing on the left, which is powered by machines, is the digital version of that on the right, which is powered by a knowledgeable human. But they are not alternatives for each other. You cannot even say that one is better than the other. It really depends on the task on hand. Allow me to demonstrate that. So looking at this audience, you all appear to be mostly humans. So I'm going to ask you to perform two tasks. So a little closer. So when I reveal the first task, as soon as you know the answer, just raise your hand really high so I can see it. I need to count. All right, so ready for task number one. Find the eigenvectors in that matrix. I don't see. Did you? No one? Okay, nobody can do it. So there's usually one person that raises their hand thinking they can do it. And the truth is, you can all do it. If you've ever had a course in undergraduate mathematics, they teach you how to do this by hand, not on a 10 by 10 matrix, usually a 2 by 2 or a 3 by 3. And this would take you many hours to do. It's a lot of rote calculations. You're going to get very bored doing it. You'll probably make a lot of mistakes along the way. But a machine can do this flawlessly in milliseconds. All right, let's try task two. I think you'll find this better suited for your particular talents. Just raise your hand high when you see it. Find the leopard print dress. Okay, we have hands going up. A few milliseconds and you guys are on it. And you weren't confused by the fact that the dress is actually blue and the leopard print dog didn't fool you either. Now, machines are going to struggle with this. It doesn't take them a long time to render an answer, but the accuracy is going to be inconsistent. Unless they've had blue dresses and leopard print dogs in their training sets, it may be hard to discern. But as humans, we have the powers to improvise. We have knowledge of social norms, and we have the ability to relate to other humans. In fact, that dress is not even leopard print at all. That's actually jaguar. But we know when somebody asks for a leopard print dress that jaguar and even cheetah would probably suffice. So we have two very different processors with different skill sets. And if you had a task that had to do with a lot of rote calculations, say finding eigenvectors in a matrix, then that is a task that's far better suited for machines. Other tasks that may rely on social norms or ability to relate to other humans, that may be better done by a different type of processor, a human processor. So this notion of human computation is not terribly new. It's been around for quite some time. This is a picture of, in the 1940s, these were people whose job it was to add up long strings of numbers. They called them computers, quite literally. If you said, I needed a computer in the 1940s, they would have said, well, we got Judy available, or maybe Bob, right? We didn't introduce the prefix digital computer until the 1950s or so. So this was the early day of computers. And now today we use human computation, but in two very different ways. Number one, we don't use them for rote calculations. We use them for the things that only a human can do. And number two, thanks to connected devices, we don't have to gather them up in rooms like this. We can connect to them wherever they are in the world and at any time in the day. And that way you can build them into your software workflows. You might have a machine task that chugs along executing rote calculations and hits a point where it needs some human judgment. It'll route a task out to a human, gets its answer back, and keeps going along its way. So with programmatic access to these wonderfully distinct compute resources, you can do a lot of things. You can combine them in new ways to achieve higher levels of performance. There's precedence for this. The game of chess, long held as perhaps, keep it close, got it. Long held as perhaps the ultimate demonstration of human thinking abilities. Well, in 1997, the world-renowned chess player Garry Kasparov lost to Deep Blue, a supercomputer built by IBM. Now, this was inevitable, it's just a matter of time. The human mind is no match for the brute force methods and the calculation speed of a supercomputer. But something interesting happened after that. There emerged this thing called freestyle chess. This is where the chess player can use a device of his or her own, and this is usually a much more modest device than a supercomputer, but something to help with the calculations. And it turns out that the two of them combined can beat a supercomputer. Kasparov himself did this. He engaged in freestyle chess, and he said that with a machine at his side to do the calculations, he felt that he was freed up to focus on the more creative aspects of the game. So the two of them can combine to produce an outcome better than either one can do on their own. And it turns out there is commercial applications for this too, for combining machines and humans. This is Stitchfix, this is where I work. It is e-commerce, but very different. Do we have any Stitchfix customers in the audience? Okay, we got a couple. Yes, we do men's clothes now as well. So at Stitchfix, like I said, it's e-commerce. You can buy clothes from us, but it's so different. There is no shopping at Stitchfix. You can go to the site, stitchfix.com, but nowhere are you going to find a browse page, a product page, or a search box. You're not even going to get recommendations there on the site. At Stitch Fix, the customer does not pick out the merchandise. And this is the value proposition. There's a lot of people that don't have time to shop. They don't know what's currently in style or what might look good on their bodies or what's appropriate for their age. They want a service to do that for them. So this is how it works. If you were to become a customer of Stitch Fix, the first thing you have to do is fill out this pretty lengthy style profile. This is where you tell us all the things about yourself, your height, your age, your weight, your preferences for fit, preferences for style. You can even write a freeform note that describes elements of your lifestyle that may be pertinent. You can also make a Pinterest pin board full of examples of things you like and you want to share that with us. The next thing that's going to happen is an algorithm is going to run, one that leverages all of that information you told us about. And it's going to pick out 5 things for you. And then it's going to ship them to you, sight unseen. You have not seen anything yet. The first time you'll see your merchandise is when it hits your doorstep. You can then open the box and experience them in the privacy of your own home, with your own shoes and wardrobe. You can get feedback from a loved one, because you're not going to drag them to a mall these days. So that's how it works. And you also don't have to keep anything. You can send any or all back. You just pay for whatever you tell us you like and you're going to keep. Send the rest back. We take the shipping both ways. So that's how it works. It is like a recommendation engine, but with a much greater commitment because we have to pay for the delivery. So there's a lot of companies that use recommender systems. To some, they drive incremental sales. To others, they are the means of engagement. To others still, they are the primary vehicle for discovery. But at Stitch Fix, this is our business model. 100% of what we sell is through our recommendations. So it's extremely important to us. Also, unlike these first 3 companies, we have incremental cost when we get it wrong, right? For these, we've all had goofy recommendations on Amazon and Netflix. You kind of shrug your shoulders and move on. But for us, it's devastating. We have the cost of shipping both ways. We got the cost of that inventory being out. And we've got a pissed off customer. She may not be shrugging her shoulders. She may have been counting on this stuff for some event. So it's extremely important to us. So we're going to have to use all the processing we can get our hands on, the machine type and the human type. So this is how it works. We have our compute resources here, machines, humans, and then also we do our own delivery, our own logistics. But the two of these combined, machines and human, compose the algorithm. We have a styling algorithm that's distributed across machine and human hardware. Now, we have all the machines we can get our hands on thanks to Amazon or AWS. For humans, we've had to amass our own army of compute resources. We now employ almost 3,000 human stylists. And these are professionals. These are folks skilled in the areas of fashion merchandise. This is not mechanical Turk. These are skilled tasks. All right, but machines and humans have very different work styles. To coordinate their work, we're going to use a queuing mechanism. Right? Machines are nearly infatigable and very fast. Humans need breaks, and they're a little more slow. So we're going to use a queuing mechanism to coordinate their work. So that over there is a customer, and this is how it works. So if she wanted a shipment of clothes, all she has to do is pick a date when she wants to receive that. That creates a shipment request, which needs to go in one of those queues. We actually have a machine algorithm that determines that. The queues roughly correspond to distribution centers throughout our country, and they may have better or worse inventory for her, or we may take into account the proximity. At any rate, they pick one, and it places it in the queue. Then the first thing we're going to do is route that shipment to machines for processing, because there is a lot that we can do with the data that has to do with rote calculations. So we can do things like, we're going to perform the M algorithm, M for machine. So we can do things like PCA and SVD, which find the directions in the data that explain the most variation. We can do things like matrix factorization that finds latent attributes that might predict what somebody's going to like. Mixed effects models that capture interactions between product attributes and the customer attributes. And then there's neural networks and deep learning. This is largely for the image and text data. So all these things might entail quite literally millions or billions of calculations. So they're far better done by machines. Effectively, what they're doing is they're taking all the inventory we have and they're going to calculate a relevancy score in the context of that customer. So it's going to eliminate a lot of the merchandise, and then what's left, it's going to rank order by this relevancy score and return it back to the queue. But we're not done that yet. We need to do more processing. We have this other processor that we can leverage. So we're going to route it to one of those humans. Now, humans are far more heterogeneous than their machine counterparts, so we don't just want to pick one arbitrarily. There's differences there, and perhaps there's one with a higher chance of success with that particular customer. So we have a machine-only algorithm that picks one of those. Let's not go to the one on the right there. Now, once it's assigned to her, we're going to drop off those machine-generated results in this very nice-looking interface so we can present all the information to her. And she's then going to perform what we call the H algorithm, H for human. And this is all the things that only a human can do. Things like improvising or curating, applying her knowledge of social norms. They're going to foster a relationship with the customer. Ultimately, she is going to reduce it down to exactly 5 things. And she's going to put that back into the queue. From there, a signal is sent to our logistics system. We do our own warehouses. And they're going to turn that information into real products. They're going to do the pick, pack, and ship, wrap it up beautifully, and get it over to the customer. So it's about doing more. It's not just machines and not just humans, but the two combined to achieve higher levels of ability. And that, combined with the convenience of home delivery, adds a lot of value to her. So the assertion here is that a styling algorithm, S, composed of human and machine resources is going to be better than a styling algorithm composed of either human or machine alone. That is, we're banking on additive results, or perhaps additive with some synergies. So this assumes that humans and machines both contribute in a non-zero way, and that those contributions are different. So this means we have to be very careful with our training. Now, training machines is pretty straightforward. We have a lot of literature out there. Things like backpropagation and cross-fold validation, feature selection, regularization. We do all these things to help train our machines. But training humans is a little different. There exists this H algorithm, again, H for human, that runs on human hardware. And each person has built up their own algorithm over a lifetime of experiences and observations. And it's hidden to us, but we can reveal it through this custom interface we've built. We can subtly change the information that we show them and then assess the outcome of their decisions. And in that way, we can ensure that their contributions are always positive and that they're always complementary or orthogonal to that of the machines. So there are a lot of benefits to combining humans and machines. This is the short version of this talk, so I'm going to jump right down to number 5, which is specialization. So it's long held that the division of labor is the source of all economic growth. But in this case, we're sharing our labor with machines, and that concerns us. But what is it that we get to do more of? Where is it that we humans specialize? Well, in the case of Stitchfix, because our stylists don't have to do the routine work, the rote calculations, they are freed up to focus on the more creative aspects of the game. And that's important because occasionally our customers write in very personal notes, such as this one. She says, "My husband is returning home from a tour in Iraq. He is disabled. I would love something for a very special date night." Now, our stylists are very much real human beings, and they can't help but be moved by this. And they are often compelled to provide more than their styling services. Sometimes they write back. They may thank the customer for her husband's sacrifice. They may send flowers or a little gift. They focus their time relating to a customer in a very human way. So in essence, the machines are enabling our humans to be more human. And that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for perhaps one or two questions.
Thank you. It was very interesting. I also work in recommendation systems, and I have a question now that you have this human factor inside. So what kind of metrics or things that you use that are from the machine to the human and then away to the customer? Because usually we measure the boundary heat rate and usage of the side and things like that. But then a human can get a list and for some reason reject all of it, or I mean, so what kind of things do you measure for this computation?
Great question. So the question was, how do we measure machines and the humans? So machines, easy enough. You've got things like AUC that can, the standard features, those standard metrics. For humans, they also have their own metrics. In not only what they achieve, but how they interact with the machine results. We do look at things common taken from search, mean reciprocal rank, how far down the list do they scroll to find their things, and when they do that, does it work out well for them, or is it not a good thing? So we give a ton of feedback back to the humans, and likewise, humans provide feedback back to the machines. It's a great question. All right, I think, do I have time for any more?
Yes, I have time for one more question.
We got one more. I saw your hand first.
If I have it right, the machine delegates to a particular human, right? And then the human suggests styles. How do you measure performance of the machine and the human given that it's chained? Right? How do you know the machine did a good job picking the right human and whether the human did a good job in general? So that's probably maybe a little bit easier, but
Yeah.
you have my question.
Let's see if I got the question correct. Is when we assign the task to a human, we have an algorithm that picks which human to do it. How do we know we got that right? And the answer is through controlled testing. You have to do, if you have a hypothesis, say that this customer is a mom and that stylist is a mom. That's a great hypothesis that maybe matching them up based on those characteristics may do better. You will only know the answer to that question if you sometimes assign moms to moms and other times assign moms to random stylists. And then you can compare A-B, where you're controlling, you're only changing exactly one thing, and then you can get your measurement. All right. Okay, thanks everyone. I will be out there if you have further questions.